Imagine standing alone before one of the most powerful rulers of your time, demanding that he release an entire nation of slaves. This is the story of Hazrat Musa, who was chosen by Allah to confront Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, and deliver the children of Israel from his tyranny. In today's episode, we'll explore how Hazrat Musa faced the enormous challenge of confronting Pharaoh, the miraculous signs that supported his mission, and the ultimate defeat of Pharaoh's arrogance by the will of Allah. This powerful story is recounted in many places in the Quran, with special emphasis in Surah Al-A'raf and Surah Taha. Let's dive into this journey of faith, struggle, and the triumph of truth over falsehood. The story of Hazrat Musa begins with an incredible event in his childhood. Pharaoh had issued a decree to kill every male child born to the Israelites, fearing that one of them would rise to challenge his power. In Surah Al-Qasas, Allah inspired Musa's mother to place him in a basket and set him afloat on the Nile River. The basket eventually reached the palace of Pharaoh, where Musa was raised as part of the royal family. As Musa grew, he came to learn about his true heritage. After an altercation that led to the accidental death of an Egyptian, Musa fled to the land of Midian, where he spent years as a shepherd. It was here that Allah spoke to him from the burning bush, as recounted in Surah Taha, appointing him as a prophet and instructing him to return to Egypt to confront Pharaoh and free the Israelites. Armed with faith and the miracles granted by Allah, Musa returned to Egypt, where his greatest challenge awaited. When Hazrat Musa arrived back in Egypt, he boldly entered Pharaoh's court and declared his mission. In Surah Taha, Musa and his brother Harun delivered Allah's message. "Let the children of Israel go with us. Do not oppress them. We are messengers from your Lord." Pharaoh, however, was arrogant and refused to acknowledge Allah. He mocked Musa and accused him of being a sorcerer. In Surah Al-A'raf, Pharaoh challenged Musa to prove his claims with a miracle. In response, Musa threw down his staff, which transformed into a serpent by Allah's command. He also placed his hand in his garment, and it emerged shining white, another sign from Allah. Yet, despite these clear signs, Pharaoh and his advisors rejected the truth. He summoned his own magicians to challenge Musa's miracles. However, when Musa, A.S., cast his staff once again, it devoured the tricks of the magicians. Astonished by what they saw, the magicians recognized the power of Allah and immediately proclaimed their faith in Musa's Lord, as mentioned in Surah Al-A'raf. This act of defiance enraged Pharaoh, but it marked the beginning of the unraveling of his tyranny. Despite witnessing the miracles, Pharaoh's heart remained hardened. In an effort to pressure Pharaoh into submission, Allah sent a series of devastating punishments upon the Egyptians, known as the plagues. In Surah Al-A'raf, the Quran recounts how Egypt was struck with floods, locusts, lice, frogs, and blood, each a sign from Allah to warn Pharaoh. Each time a calamity struck, Pharaoh would beg Musa to pray to Allah for relief, promising to free the Israelites if the punishment was lifted. But as soon as the plague was removed, Pharaoh broke his promise and continued his oppression. This cycle of deception and arrogance repeated itself, showcasing Pharaoh's refusal to submit to the will of Allah. The plagues were not just signs for Pharaoh. They were a reminder for all of humanity about the consequences of tyranny and disobedience to Allah. But Pharaoh's pride blinded him to the reality of Allah's power. Finally, Allah commanded Musa, A.S., to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Musa and the Israelites fled by night, with Pharaoh and his army in hot pursuit. This led to the climactic moment by the Red Sea. When the Israelites reached the sea, they were trapped, with Pharaoh's forces closing in. It was then that Allah performed one of the greatest miracles in history. In Surah Al-Shu'ara, Allah commanded Musa to strike the sea with his staff, and the waters parted, creating a pathway for the Israelites to cross. Pharaoh and his army followed, but once the Israelites were safely on the other side, the waters closed in, drowning Pharaoh and his soldiers. Pharaoh's end was a powerful testament to the consequences of arrogance and disbelief. In Surah Yunus, it is said that Pharaoh declared his belief in Allah at the moment of his drowning, but it was too late. His body was preserved as a sign for future generations. The story of Hazrat Musa and Pharaoh teaches us profound lessons about faith, resilience, and the consequences of arrogance. Pharaoh's rejection of Allah's signs led to his downfall, while Musa's unwavering trust in Allah brought him and his people salvation. This story reminds us to always trust in Allah's plan, even in the face of the greatest challenges. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our channel and join us next time as we explore more stories from the lives of the prophets.